Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the liquor licensing panel, which is being held in the council chamber on Monday, the 14th of November 2022 at 1400 hours. I'd like to introduce my panel. I have Councillor Janice Henwood and Councillor Sam Smith. I have Mr. Paul Vickers, who is the licensing solicitor, John Brandt, the senior licensing officer, and my Alison taking minutes, and Lucinda doing the monitoring, the microphones, etc. So, welcome everybody. So, onto the agenda. To receive apologies, I have none. Item 2, to receive declarations of interest from members of the matter, any matter on the agenda. I have none. There are no members of the public here, because there is, we would agree to exclude them. Do we agree to exclude anybody if there are members? Yes. Okay, you agree. Well, that is agreed. Thank you. Should anybody turn up. Item 3, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting held on 27th of September 2022. Well, Councillor Janice Henwood, you were the only one here last time, so do you agree? You confirm them? Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, item 4, application for a new premise licence. Mr. Brandt, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Certainly, Chair. The matter before the panel today is the application for a new premises licence. The report provides information in order that the licensing committee can determine this application. In summary, an application pursuant to Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 has been made by Loungers UK Limited for the grant of a premises licence at Unit E, Queen's Walk, East Grinstead. There is some amendments to the report as I go through, Chair, because a number of interested parties have now agreed their representations. So currently 7 members of the public, referred to as interested parties within the Act, have submitted representations objecting to the application on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. The interested parties reside or are connected with the flats situated above the location. The committee is asked to determine this application in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, the Home Office guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Mid-Sussex District Council licensing policy, whilst having due regard to the applicant's submissions and relevant representations which are made. The background is that Loungers Limited are a national chain of cafe bar establishments, currently with in excess of 170 outlets throughout the country, and they have submitted an application for the grant of a new licence for a cafe bar to be located on Queen's Walk at Unit E in Queen's Walk, East Grinstead. This is one of a number of new commercial units situated on the ground floor of a newly completed development of flats known as Elizabeth House. The applicant seeks the following licensable activities and timings. The supply of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. The proposed opening hours of the premises will be 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday. It should be noted by the panel that these hours have been amended by the applicant from the original application. The hours were amended as a response to the representations that were received during the public consultation, and the initial application was for the supply of alcohol till midnight, Monday to Sunday, and late night refreshment between 11 p.m. and half past midnight, Monday to Sunday. And the original opening hours were 8 a.m. to half past midnight, Monday to Sunday. But as I say, they have been amended by the applicant during the consultation period. The application was correctly advertised at site between the 24th of September and the 21st of October this year, and in the East Grinstead Courier on the 30th of September 2022. A number of representations have been received from members of the public, referred to as interested parties. The main points in these representations relate to the licensing objective of the prevention of a public nuisance. The applicant and their solicitor did hold a meeting with the interested parties on site on the 28th of October in an attempt to resolve the outstanding representations and address the concerns of the residents of the flats. This resulted in a number of the representations being withdrawn. However, at the time of presenting this report, 7 representations still remain unresolved. The committee should be aware when reading the representations from the interested parties that some of the information they provide and the representations are based on the original hours applied for. These have since been reduced by the applicant. All the interested parties have been advised of the revised operating schedule and hours, but some have not made further comment to these amendments made by the applicant. There are other comments relating to music. In the circumstances of this particular application, live and recorded music is not considered as regulated entertainment, and therefore wouldn't be controlled through the premises licence and would be controlled through other legislation. There are comments relating to the lease, planning, information provided during the sale of the flats to occupiers, which again is not relevant in the context of a licensing application. Any issues relating to mentioning fire safety would be addressed by the fire brigade, who are consulted as a responsible authority, and they've made no representations. The committee must focus on the relevant parts only and disregard the irrelevant matters when determining this application. The police and environmental protection team have agreed conditions with the applicant, and in addition, the applicant has offered further conditions to address the representations. And if the committee decides to grant the licence, I request that in addition to the mandatory conditions, the conditions offered in the operating schedule by the applicant and agreed by the police and environmental protection team be attached to the licence, and full details of those are attached at Appendix 4. Now, the representations. The interested parties' representations, the first was mentioned is from Mr. Aaron MacDonald. He made representations on the grounds of the prevention of a public nuisance. The panel will see his objections in full on the report, that he would like to object to the application for a premises licence by loungers, limited for both the proposals, the sale of alcohol up to midnight and late night refreshment till midnight. He states that he feels that the late night serving of alcohol would cause many problems, as mentioned in the prevention of nuisance guidance, but most specifically in relation to noise levels. He details that he lives directly above the premises, as do many others, and would be directly affected by the noise of customers arriving and leaving. He mentions about music, as I say, which is, in this case, irrelevant. He mentions about building work. The building work isn't a regulated activity under the Licensing Act, and again, is not relevant to this application. And he mentions about the terms of his lease. Again, the terms of individual leases for the flats is not relevant in regard to this application. He continues to say, frankly, incredible the process has even got this far. I welcome you to attend our flat and listen to the noise the builders are making. He was contacted with the revised hours, and he responded, hi John, no, they clearly don't even begin to tackle my main concern about music being played directly beneath my flat. This is clearly a copy and paste job to terms that loungers have pre-agreed. And then he mentions about music, which is irrelevant in this case, and then talks about tables and chairs being placed in the Queen's Walk outside the premises. The applicant isn't requesting any of the area outside Queen's Walk to be licensed, part of the licensed premises, but they have offered, the panel will see, conditions relating to this area if they do decide to put tables and chairs out there and to control that area. He states that our managing agent has made an objection. Rosetree, I believe, the 2 points I've raised about public nuisance are unacceptable, and I can't really believe that it has gone this far. That is from Mr. MacDonald. Anna Costa has withdrawn her representation, and so therefore I would ask the panel to disregard the comments made by Anna Costa. Francois Conradi has made representations on the grounds of a prevention of public nuisance. They state that they would like to object to the application for a premises licence, the sale of alcohol between 10 and midnight daily and late night refreshment till 00:30 daily. They state that they feel the late night serving of alcohol would cause many problems, as mentioned in the prevention of nuisance guidance, but most specifically in relation to noise levels. They state that they live directly above the premises, as do many others, and would be directly affected by the noise of customers arriving and leaving the premises late at night. She states, I work shifts and my sleep would be severely disrupted. I also have a daughter who's undertaking studies and exams, and the late night gatherings and noise levels would be disturbing for her studies. Any gathering outside the premises would also be audible, as Queen's Walk arcade is like a sound chamber, and noise at night echoes up and down and is greatly amplified. I didn't have any response from Francois Conradi when I advised them of the revision of the opening hours to 11 o'clock, which was offered by the applicant. The next one is from a guy at Morris. Mr. Morris has made representations on the grounds of prevention of public nuisance. He has stated that he's objecting to the issue of the licence. He's stated he's collaborated over a long time with the Environmental Protection Team to get commercial users of the delivery bay to comply more closely with the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. quiet areas. He was told by Western Homes that commercial units will only be available for certain non-noisy activities. I would point out to the panel that that is not relevant to this application. He states, if it helps the objection, I'd like to let you know that I'm an airline pilot in a safety critical role that requires sleep, and as and when I can get it, I know of at least one other crew member and at least 2 doctors that live in this building that have, if not more important, safety critical jobs to do. And he states at the moment, I can reasonably guarantee quiet between 21:30 and 07:30 on most nights. A reasonable window to get to sleep with my earliest early rise is a wake-up time of 02:10, and my latest planned late finish gets me home at around 0400. If that quiet window is reduced, it may seriously affect the viability of me living here. Mr. Morris was contacted when the hours were revised. He says this agreement that makes no mention of a licence for live music on the premises. Does that mean that live music will not be allowed? As previously explained, that's not relevant because live music is not licensable in these circumstances. And he stated, I'm still concerned that as to the noise that patrons will make in the evening, as every other shop on Queen's Walk is shut before 7 p.m, perhaps further mitigation could be provided by only allowing outside seating on the peak Friday and Saturday evenings and an evening restriction on other days. And in response to the licensing hearings regulation notice, he stated that his primary concern is for the raising of noise levels that will encroach hours of sleep. Please consider we have shift workers in our building that are safety critical, doctors, airline crew, etc. The next interested parties are Julie Stacey. They have made representations on the grounds of the prevention of public nuisance. They stated that they would like to object to the application on the original hours mentioned till midnight and midnight for late night refreshments. And they state that they felt that the late night serving of alcohol would cause many problems as mentioned in the prevention of nuisance guidance, but most specifically in relation to noise levels. Again, they state that they live directly above the premises, as do many others, and they will all be directly affected by the noise of customers arriving and leaving the premises late at night. She states that she works from home and her partner works shifts, and they feel that they already have to deal with the disruption from noise deliveries during unsocial hours. Any gathering outside the premises would also be audible, as Queen's Walk Arcade is like a sound chamber, and any noise at night echoes up and down and is greatly amplified. We again deal with this already, as once bars and establishments in the town empty and many people walk through Queen's Walk and are very loud. She states there's no consideration for the 129 flats in the building. She mentions about construction noise within her representation, which is irrelevant, and she mentions about people in Queen's Walk smoking, which the panel will be aware is a public place and is in the open air. She states furthermore that there are many families which have young children. In the immediate flats which surround mine, there have been 3 children who have been born in the last 2 months alone. This establishment will cause disruption to many people's lives and cause disruption to sleep patterns, young and old. She was contacted about the amended hours and conditions. She stated, good morning, John, thank you for the reply. Unfortunately, the above conditions are not sufficient to satisfy the concerns that I have as well as other residents. She mentions about tables being outside the premises and her balcony is directly above the proposed establishment door. She states the noise currently from the construction is insanely loud, which again is not relevant to this application. And she mentions that she's upset that the council have not considered this. What I would say at this point, Chair, is that if there are issues with regard to the building noise, then that should be addressed to the Environmental Protection Team to deal with, rather than through the application for a premises licence, as this is not the forum for that to be aired. She then talks about the placing of tables outside in the Queen's Walk area, which again is not a licensable activity. And she again talks about there's no comments to handle the many complaints that have been sent as a result of the proposed live music. Again, as I said, to reiterate, live music is not a regulated activity in this circumstances. If there were issues, if the licence was to be issued with regard to loud music, that would be dealt with by the Environmental Protection Team through the measures that they have in respect to statutory nuisance, rather than with regard to the premises licence. I would then go on to Karen Offord. Karen Offord has withdrawn her representation, and I would ask the panel to ignore that. Lucy Muggeridge has made representations on the grounds of prevention of a public nuisance. She has stated she has objections to the opening of lounge operating on Queen's Walk. She states she lives on the side of the high street where anyone who leaves this place will be right outside her apartment, and that you clearly hear whoever leaves or makes a noise. She works shifts for public service, and these can be from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. Includes her working shifts every other weekend. And within this in place, including the hours proposed, there's going to be large amounts of people exiting this facility, making a lot of noise, she states. She states that she and many other residents will be putting in a lot of noise complaints when this happens, which will ultimately end in action being taken anyway. And she states something should be done about this before anything else continues. She talks about building noise. She talks about having a place like this is completely unfair to the residents who have bought their home there. Again, that's not relevant. And then states that when they were sold their properties, they were under the impression that this would never happen. Again, that's not relevant. When she was contacted with regard to the hours, there was no response to the time changes which were proposed by the applicant. Malesh Ghali is the next interested party. They've made representations on the grounds of public nuisance. Again, the hours mentioned are the previous hours, which have been amended by the applicant. They state that they feel that the late night serving of alcohol would cause many problems, most specifically in relation to noise levels. They specify where they live in Elizabeth Place, which is exactly above the premises, and they would be directly affected by the noise of customers that arrive in and leave in the premises late at night. He mentions that he has a 5-year-old and a 2-month-old, and their bedroom windows are just right above the proposed bar. On response to the amended operating hours, they did state that they were happy to see the changes but didn't consider they were sufficient. They state that as I said, I live exactly above the proposed bar and I have young children. Any noise after 6 p.m. is not acceptable. I couldn't have bought the flat if that was the case. I don't think we control people standing or sitting outside the bar, smoking or talking loudly. So any kind of bar or place serving alcohol could lead to chaos. I'd welcome you to come to my home and check how noise will be disturbing, and I mostly work from home these days. My work software program needs enormous concentration. I can't do a proper job without having disturbed sleep. I strongly object to anything which makes noise and disturbance after 6 p.m. And goes on to state, please understand my situation with 2 kids working from home with lots of noise downstairs and cigarette smoke coming directly into my bedrooms. The final representation is from Rose Tree Estates, which was made by Megan Knight on behalf of Rose Tree Estates. They are present here to present their representation in person, so I don't propose to read out their representation as they're able to detail it and any other information that they wish to add. The only things I would point out is within their representation, the mentions about antisocial behaviour and residents paying for the clear up of the ground surrounding. The panel will be aware that licensed premises cannot be generally held responsible for the actions of customers once they've departed the premises. And those comments I would invite the panel to disregard when they're making their consideration. The report goes on to detail the policy context. The committee must determine the application in accordance with the Licensing Act, the Mid-Sussex District Council licensing policy, and the guidance issued by the Home Office under Section 182 of the Licensing Act, whilst having due regard to the applicant's submissions and relevant representations. I've set out the legislation, which I don't propose to go into at this point. Obviously, if you have any questions with regard to the legislation, the Council Solicitor is here to answer those questions. Relevant representations. Now, the Licensing Act of 2003 requires representations to address the 4 licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, the promotion of public safety, the prevention of a public nuisance, and the prevention of harm to children and young persons. And a representation is a relevant representation if it is about the likely effect of the grant of the licence on the promotion of the licensing objectives. The objector must establish that such a consequence is a likely effect of the grant, i.e. more probable than not. I've highlighted various parts of the Section 182 guidance issued by the Home Office for the benefit of the panel. At 9.3, where representation concerning a licensing objective is made by a responsible authority or a interested party, then the licensing authority's discretion will be engaged. Relevant representations can be made in opposition to or in support of an application and can be made by any individual, body or business that has grounds to do so. As stated, representation is only relevant if it relates to the likely effect of the grant of the licence on the promotion of at least one of the licensing objectives. The guidance then gives an example as to what representation would not be relevant and what would be relevant. And as a matter of practice, the licensing authority should seek to focus the hearing on the steps considered appropriate to promote the particular licensing objective or objectives that have given rise to the specific representation and avoid straying into undisputed areas. A responsible authority or other person may choose to rely on their written representation. They may not add further representations to those disclosed to the applicant prior to the hearing, but they may expand on their existing representations and should be allowed sufficient time to do so within reasonable and practicable limits. In determining the application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives, the overall interests of the local community, the licensing authority must give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote the licensing objectives, the representations, including supporting information presented by all the parties, the guidance under Section 182, and our own statement of licensing policy. The guidance goes on to state that licensing authorities are best placed to determine what actions are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives in their area, and licensing determination should be considered on a case-by-case basis. They should take into account any representations or objections that have been made from responsible authorities or other persons, and representations made by the applicant or premises user, as the case may be. And the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. The financial implications are that the final decision made by the committee in this matter is subject to appeal in the Magistrates' Court by any party subject to the proceedings. And I'll now move on to guide the panel through the background papers. The first one, Appendix 1, is the original application form and the plan of the premises. Obviously, reminding the panel that the hours specified within the original application form have been amended during the course of the application. The panel will see at the end of the application form the plan of the premises, the area to be licensed is all inside the premises and not outside. Then moving on to Appendix 2, in an attempt to give some context as to where the premises is, there's an aerial shot of Queen's Walk, and the panel will see on the aerial shot there's marked Poppins, East Grinstead, and in fact the application for the particular unit is opposite, in the opposite building, virtually opposite where Poppins is, would be the location. Again, there's a further plan, a block plan, which has got a red marker roughly just down from where the location would be. To assist, Appendix 3 has a series of photographs. The first one is a view along Queen's Walk from the car park at the end of Queen's Walk, with the premises at the far end of that picture on the left-hand side. The next view is from the other end of Queen's Walk, and the premises is on the right-hand side with the red barriers just outside. The third picture is a further picture of the entrance with the red barriers. The fourth picture is a view of the premises, giving some context to the location of the flats above for the panel. And the last picture again is from the opposite angle, again giving some context to the flats above in relation to the premises for the panel. The final appendix, Appendix 4, is the conditions which have been agreed and offered by the applicant in relation to this application. Unless I can help the panel further, this is the report before yourselves today.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant, for your comprehensive report. What I'm going to do now is invite the applicant, if you've got any questions in relation to what the officer has said, and then I'll invite the interested parties if they've got any questions of the officer, and then after that we'll invite you to give your presentation, and then you can give your submission as well. So, any questions for the senior licensing officer, please? And would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sorry, Ronald Bockhai. I'm a solicitor representing the applicant today.
Thank you, thank you.
I don't have the photograph, so I don't really mind if there is a spare
It's a
copy
spare
of
copy.
the appendices, that would be useful.
Thank you, Terry, thank you.
Okay, thanks, sorry. Okay, thank you. No other questions, thank you.
No questions?
No, thank
Any other of the applicants got any questions? No? Okay. Have you got any questions? No? Okay. Okay, excellent, thank you. I certainly have, I have a question. In terms of the tables outside, do they need to be licensed? Not part of this act, but in terms of some pavement licence or something like that?
I was going to I'll address you on that in a moment.
Okay, all right, if I don't get clarity, I'll come back. Thank you very much. Okay, and I notice in the premise map, I forget which page it's on, with the pink drawing on page 31, only inside is the premise defined. Now, my question is, I would assume they wouldn't be allowed to serve alcohol outside because it's not defined as part of the premise. Could you clarify that, please, Mr. Bryant?
Certainly, Chair. The application is for the provision of alcohol for the consumption both on and off the premises. And you will see that within the proposed conditions, that has been addressed with regard to any consumption outside the premises.
Can you just remind me which condition that is?
On 9, the sale and supply of consumption in any external trading area shall be restricted to alcohol consumed at tables and chairs. So if there is use of any of the area outside, it will be restricted to customers at the tables and chairs rather than people standing around outside.
But there's there's also no limit then to where they could take the alcohol in Queen's Walk. Does that make sense?
I certainly know what the chair is getting at. No, the application is for sales for alcohol for consumption on or off the premises. Off the premises, it isn't. There isn't a defined area for the consumption.
So takeaway, effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for clarity.
I will go through.
No, well, that's fine. Thank you very much. Okay. Any questions, panel, for Mr. Bryant?
Sorry, I've got one. Sorry.
Oh, I missed you, sorry. Go on.
No, that's all right, sorry, I came in. Have you got a plan here showing an area outside of the property that you have rights to use?
Oh, well, we're just taking questions for the senior officer at the moment, so...
Have you got one?
Okay, sorry, let me conduct the please, thank you.
Right, the application it's being considered is not an application for use of, for outside areas to be licensed. The application is just to license the inside area.
Okay, so they can apply for a licence to sell alcohol on or off, but they don't have to own the areas off.
The application is for the sale of alcohol for consumption on or off the premises. There's no definition as to where off is. Off is off the premises, very much like as if you go into Tesco's and buy alcohol there, that's for consumption off the premises. It doesn't specify where off the premises you have to drink it.
Yeah,
So,
they're serving it to you off the premises, aren't they? They're selling it to you.
and this is what's happening in this application. It's for the sale of alcohol for consumption on or off the premises.
Bit like an off licence, I guess. Any questions for panel for nothing? No, okay. Right, I'm now going to invite the applicant to make a submission, please.
Thank you. I've got my red light. Good afternoon. Thank you for hearing us today. And thank you for John, both for his, the time that he spent trying to get us together with the residents, which has been very helpful, and also for an extremely thorough introduction to the application today. But he did miss the most important part, and that is that we have an award-winning chocolate torte at Loungers. But no doubt that can be tasted at one of our venues. There appears to have been some confusion. We're not Tesco. We're not going to be. I'll address you on the outside space because that's part of the confusion I think that we've had today. I've got some booklets, and I did send it through digitally as well. I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to look at that, or indeed you may have been to the Francisco Lounge in Hayward Heath, just around the corner from here.
I've seen it, but I haven't been in there, but yeah.
Okay, so I've got some images, if you like, of which I can hand out. Megan and Rosanna have seen these. Do you want to just pass these down?
I think that'd be helpful, because we did have a question, we talked about beforehand about what this premises looks like. Do you want to give one to the interested parties, please?
Just move this a bit closer to.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have you got one, John? Thank you. Have you got one, John? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So we're not Tesco, and we won't trade in any like Tesco in any way whatsoever. We are, the best description is an informal cafe bar. Our main business is breakfast and brunch. People can come for a relaxed dinner, but we find that the evening trade is not our busy time of the day. We are certainly not a late night bar, and we are not, never have been, a live music venue. There's a fantastic emphasis on vegan and gluten-free food. We engage with the local communities. The teams are encouraged to connect with their local communities by working with local charity groups, and on opening we donate 50p per hamburger to local charities. So there's various fundraising initiatives that take place. There appears to have been some confusion over this application. We met with the residents on the 28th of October, and what we couldn't understand is why they thought, and appear to have been told, that this is going to be a late night, live music venue, drinking venue. Now, if somebody told me, I lived in an apartment, if somebody told me that there was going to be a live music venue with vertical drinking underneath me, with gatherings outside and people smoking and noise, I would also object to such an application. But that has never been the case. It's never been in the papers, never been in the application. And I've now done lots of these applications, I'm fortunate to have done that, and I've never seen this type of representation or objection to a Loungers facility. So we can only imagine that something has been circulated that has caused misinformation and understandable alarm. And we had a very good meeting with the residents. They were lovely, and they sat and they listened to what we had to say, and a number of them have withdrawn. And there was a degree of excitement amongst them that they would have, particularly those working from home actually, that they would have a facility where they could go and work, they could set up with their laptop, nobody's timing them, they can have a coffee, they can have a brunch or a breakfast, and this will provide them with a really good facility. So there was a level of excitement there as well. Now, having said that, we recognise that there's been building noise. Usually, lounges would all be fitted out and ready before the resident apartments above. It's for whatever reason, it's happened the other way around on this occasion. And we understand that there has been building work. We're trying to do things as quickly as possible because we want to get it open, and the quicker we do it, the less noise there is going to be. And part of that noise, and I think really over the last week or so, has been, ironically, the installation of an acoustic ceiling, because it goes up there, obviously, an acoustic ceiling, and it has to be drilled into the floors, and that has caused a level of disruption for local residents. And so for that, we're sorry. It's difficult to get contractors at the moment, as you'll be aware. We have to try and fit them in. We want to get it done as quickly as possible and get the place open and trading. So any noise that may have been experienced by the residents, unfortunate though it has been, is not a sign of what will happen once we are open and trading. And we've tried to convey that to Rose Tree Estates, as well as the residents that we met with, and none of them are here today to maintain a representation, that there is an element of building noise, but that's not relevant to the licensing.
We won't be considering that, no.
Thank you. So as part of that consultation, we did cut the terminal hour to 11 p.m. This is not a place that's going to tip out at 11 p.m. with lots of people leaving at the same time. And so the evening trade tends to be a little bit quiet. I give the example, I personally went to the lounges on Watford High Street, which is close to Wetherspoons. It's on the drinking circuit. And I got there at 8 o'clock and it was busy. And at 9:45, there was hardly anybody else in lounges, but they were in pubs. But we are not that sort of facility. So it tends to be quiet later in the evening. It's certainly not a bell goes and everybody leaves and gathers. There's no gatherings outside. It's, again, not that sort of facility. We do allow people to have a drink without food, but they tend not to. Most people come in because of the food. We are not going to be the cheapest drink in town. It's not where you come to get drunk. This is a place where you come with your families, with your partners, your children, and you can have a drink as well. Now, the outside area. We don't even know if we are going to have an outside area. Excuse me. There is space outside, but we have to negotiate that with the landlord, and that's not been concluded yet. So we've applied for on and off sales. You'll be aware that virtually all pubs, rather than using Tesco as the example, but virtually all pubs in England and Wales are licensed for the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises. We're not a pub, we're not a restaurant, we're sort of in between. I'd say we're 80% restaurant, 20% bar, or even 90-10. So we've left it so that there can be on and off sales. Do we do takeaways? No, we don't. So you won't find Uber Eats and Deliveroo coming to our premises, taking food or drink away from the premises. It's not part of our operation. So most unlikely. We did say to one of the residents that she's welcome to come down, and I did hear Craig say that she's welcome to come down and get some food and take it back to her flat. If they make that private arrangement, that's up to them, but it's not part of the offer takeaway at the premises. So there could be a few tables and chairs outside. Now, that's important to people as well, and certainly since COVID, this isn't COVID, by the way, but since COVID, the outside space has become really important. And there is a balance that you as a committee look to achieve in any licence application. And what we're finding, and I have found over the last couple of years, is that people do want that facility to be able to sit outside and set up with a laptop, have a coffee, have a drink, and not have to be inside. So we'd like to have that facility. By licensing for on and off sales, it leaves that open as a possibility, but we have to reach an agreement with the owners of the pavement area.
Just, who are they? Is it the West Sussex County Council own that?
I think it's the landlord, isn't it?
It'd be the landlord.
Yeah, we think it's the landlord, but we're not involved in that that side of it at all. So we genuinely we don't know yet whether we would be able to use that facility. There's no representations from the police, and that's important because they are your experts on crime and disorder, and if they thought that the grant of this licence in its original form, so that's the midnight licence, if they believed that that was going to cause crime and disorder, then they would have brought that to your attention. There was a representation from Jane Cooper, your environmental health officer. We engaged with her, we agreed some conditions which you now have in your papers, and she has withdrawn the environmental health representations. So, as John said, we've amended the midnight terminal hour to 11 p.m, and we've removed the request for late night refreshment because we're not going to be open beyond 11 o'clock. Regulated entertainment, none, never was any. So again, I don't quite understand where the misinformation has come from. We'll come back to that in a moment. And then opening hours, we've asked to leave that to planning, as is usual in a licence application. So we met with the residents. We didn't take a register. It was a fairly informal chat, a very useful chat. I wish we'd taken a list of names, but I didn't really want to walk around and ask everybody, because there were about a dozen people there altogether, and we were really just explaining the concept to them. But most of John's got through the representations very helpfully, but most of them are about live music until late, about gatherings, and about building noise. Building noise, we've already said, not relevant. Live music is not relevant, and we don't experience congregations of people standing outside lounges, and therefore it's most unlikely that people are going to be standing outside there smoking either. Anna Costa has withdrawn. Francois didn't respond to John's email with the changes to the application. I would refer you to the Guy Morris representation, because he does say in his representation that the building manager from Rosetree Estates has informed him that lounges are applying for an alcohol and live music licence to 12:30 a.m. That may, if something has been circulated that Guy Morris appears to have received, then that may explain some of the confusion surrounding this application. I think that might be why we're here today, as opposed to an application for lounges going through. Julie Stacey talks about gatherings. I've covered that. Building noise, covered that. Karen Offord is also about gatherings outside, but she's withdrawn, having spoken to us, having listened to us, she's withdrawn her representation. Lucy Muggeridge, again, building noise, but large numbers of people leaving lounges late at night, and I have explained that's not how we operate. We don't expect there to be large numbers of people leaving at night, late at night. Malesh Ghali is a little bit of an outlier in wanting no noise after 6 p.m. But there is a balance, as I said at the beginning, for a licensing committee, and we believe that we will bring a community facility to this area, and that outweighs any potential for some noise after 6 p.m. Which brings us to Rosetree Estates. Megan Knight, who's here, says she has concerns for almost 100% of the building. We would need evidence of that. If that is a statement of fact, and if she's going to stand by that, then we need some evidence that she has. She's instructed by 100% or close to 100% of the people in the building. We've seen that those that listen to us, quite a few of them actually have withdrawn their representations, and none of them are here today. Each single representation, each single resident had the opportunity to make a representation, and each single resident that made a representation has received an invitation to today's hearing. And so I think you can read something into their not attending and attach such weight as you wish. Megan describes us as a bar in a representation. We are not a bar, and we weren't described as a bar in the application. She refers to human excrement in the representation. Now that will again worry people. It's not relevant to our application. We don't quite understand why it had to feature in a representation in a licensed area.
Let him finish, please.
And
We'll have opportunity to ask him questions, okay?
And concludes that the grant of this licence will cause untold amounts of issues for residents. Well, actually, we believe that the majority of residents are going to like what we do and enjoy the facility that we offer, in addition to those other residents and visitors to East Grinstead. In terms of the external area, We do have external areas at most of our lounges. We're aware of our obligations. They're treated as an extension, but there are lots of steps that we take to keep it tight, to keep them tidy. I've got a list here of the litter is managed, the regular sweeps. We're very hot on curb appeal, which is a new expression to me, but it's very important they keep that tidy, keep it clean. They have logged checks looking at candles and cutlery polishing, tables are cleaned and sanitised, saucers and caddies topped up and cleaned, and the outside area closed down at night and swept. So it will be monitored at all times if it is used, but it is not part of the licensed premises. It's not really part of the licence application. We could have left the conditions off altogether about the outside space because we're not seeking a licence for the outside space. We're trying to be helpful by saying that and if there are tables and chairs there, they would be unusable by 10 p.m. And there will be no vertical drinking anywhere on the premises at all. But we did explain at the meeting that we could simply remove it. If those conditions have caused confusion, we could just remove them altogether. But we think the residents are better off by having some regulation on the outside space than no regulation at all. We have training, as you can imagine, for all of our staff. We expect to recruit some 25 people locally to work in lounges. I don't know whether, again, you're familiar with the lounges concept. There is an app which, unlike many apps, it actually works. You go in, you sit at your table. You can order through a waiter or waitress, or you can just order yourself the food with lots of options. It's very clever, and the food is brought to you at your table. So it's a food-led family restaurant bar. We've got a very sensible operating schedule. Happy to talk you through the conditions if they're in the papers, but you'll see what we've tried to achieve there. It's not a cut and paste job. Obviously, some of them are standard lounges conditions, but we've tried to adapt it to these premises, and we've had additional conditions following discussions with the Environmental Health Officer and with John. The outside dining we don't believe is likely to be a significant disturbance if we use it at all. It's not a beer garden, and it would be finished by 10 p.m. In any event. And there's no vertical drinking either inside or outside. And just to stress, there's no takeaway at all. So that's the application. I hope that I've covered everything you need to hear. We had really hoped that we had given enough information to Rose Tree Estates for them to have withdrawn today. They wanted to stipulate conditions on the hours in which our building contractors were working before they would agree to withdraw their representation. I don't think that's how licensing should work. There's a separate process, and I was uncomfortable about the process of trading off, if you like.
I think that's one for the planning department, the building hours.
Or about the noise department, but it's not. It shouldn't be a condition of somebody withdrawing their.
Okay.
So this hearing today, as John said, he did 70% of my work for me, but I have to do it anyway. So this hearing is about the likely impact of the grant of this licence on the licensing objectives. It's got nothing to do with Ian the builder or anybody else that might have been there making some noise, drilling. It is about the likely impact, and those are the only representations that are relevant either before, during, or during this hearing. And any decision that you make today, as John said, would need to be evidence-based as well, as you know. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have. I've been very rude. I haven't introduced.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. I've got Craig Williams, Operations Director from Lounges on my right, and Simon Chalk, who's the Regional Operations Manager, both of whom were present at the meeting with the residents. I'm really sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart.
If you've got any questions, please.
Thank you, Submission. Thank you very much. Mr. Bryant, you got any questions you wish to? No, Chair. Okay, interested parties. Sorry, I should have asked you to introduce yourselves, but you've got any questions for the applicant?
I do, yes.
Could you introduce yourself? Sorry, yes.
Yeah, I'm Roseanne Cox from Rose Tree Estates. We act on behalf of the residents of Queen's Walk, who are the residents above where these commercial units are going. So although they've confirmed that they haven't attended today, they're attending via us. That's what our job is. We work on behalf of them. I think you made some quite strong accusations in your presentation there. First of all, Rose Tree Estates haven't told anybody it's live music. A document was sent out to the residents that they received, and they notified us, which we then circulated to all the other residents to make sure they had it. That clearly stipulated live music. We haven't created a breakdown of information on their behalf and sent it out to make people not want lounges below them. The residents are, in many cases, happy to have lounges. It's just the opening hours that they're concerned about. I know here we're being told that they're only open till 11, but on your website it says till 12 o'clock. And I think that's why, since you met them, lots of them left saying, oh, well, I'm happy with that, we can go. But then when they look online, the information is varying to what you've told them. And yes, I'm coming to it.
Well,
And
yeah,
that's
that sounds
why
like-
they've asked us,
Just get, yeah.
I'm just getting to it. And that's why they've asked us to be here today. Not because Guy Morris is unhappy, it's because them as a general consensus have asked us to be here today. So could you confirm to us today what your opening hours are and why your website says midnight if that's not the case?
The opening hours are as per the application. So not website. I don't know which website you're looking at.
Your website.
What,
It
Lounge's
says,
website?
It says Lounges, yeah. It says it's open Monday to Wednesday, it's open until 11, and after that it's open until midnight.
172 Lounges.
Yeah, we've gone on to the East Grinstead one. A resident raised it with us, that's why we're here.
Can I just intervene here, because it'll be a matter for this hearing to decide what the opening hours. I understand there might be some discrepancy on what's on the East Grinstead Lounges website, so it's for us to decide what the opening hours will be, so.
Okay, and just one last thing with regards to the building works. I appreciate they're irrelevant, but from the residents' point of view, what they're saying is that when trying to work with you to alter the building hours, it's not been easy. And so if working with you as shared occupiers of a building, is that still going to be as difficult as it has been with the working hours? They've had people drilling at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, 8 p.m. on a Sunday, 8 p.m. on a weekday, and it's taken 2 weeks to have these
Sorry,
adjusted.
Roxanne, but this,
Okay.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
is not,
I'm
I
asking a
understand that,
question.
but it's not going to be for this hearing, you know. I really want to
Right.
deal with what's relevant, but you may want to talk offline about that, and if you're unhappy, go back to environmental health within Mid Sussex and address that with them, I would, yeah?
Okay, so how they would work with the residents isn't relevant to this hearing?
We're really here to determine what the licence is going to be, yeah? So,
Right,
a
okay.
building is not part of the licence
No, that
application. I
wasn't-
understand your concerns, I've got that, but I just don't want to drag down into a conversation about, you know, what hours we're going to be operating the building, because that's not for us.
Yeah, that wasn't my question.
No, okay.
Can I answer the question?
Let her finish, please.
I don't know how long the question's going to be.
Yeah, come on,
Well, if you let me finish, it will be shorter.
come on,
Thank you.
let's, come on.
The question is working with you as a company going to be easy in relation to if they do have concerns? When we met you and you met the residents, they said that you would meet them every 3 months. But if you meet them every 3 months and they have concerns, are you going to act on their concerns? Or is it going to be the same as the current issue where it's just pushed aside as long as possible?
I'll answer that. Wait for it to go. I'll answer that first. So we did suggest a condition at the meeting that will invite the local residents to a meeting to discuss any operational issues that they may express every 3 months during the 12-month period following the opening of the premises, and that invitation will be through Rose Tree events, and that was received very well. The reason it's not in perpetuity is that, well, it's my experience actually, that when you put these conditions on the licence and there are no problems, it becomes quite difficult to have those meetings where no issues and people just don't turn up. So we're satisfied. We believe that there's unlikely to be, other than teething issues in the first 12 months, but we'd be delighted to meet with them every 3 months. We have 173 lounges. I'm not aware of any of those licences being reviewed. And that's an important, about something I normally talk about in my closing, that the way licensing works is it's a fairly permissive piece of legislation that allows things to happen, but woe betide if you then step outside of line and you cause a problem for local residents, because there is a review process in the Licensing Act. So any of the residents, I would like to think they'd speak to us first. That's generally how it works. But at any time, they have the power to seek a review of licensing. This happened on this day, this happened on that day. In terms of, and the steps, you can revoke the licence, you can suspend it.
Yeah, if you could not go into telling us what we can do, not do, please.
I'm really speaking I'm really
Okay,
speaking
okay.
to the room. I know that you know the system, but sometimes
Sure,
residents,
okay.
residents don't know. As for, well, they've had difficulties over the last few weeks. We're going to be ready next week. And the difficulties they've had with the building noise is not representative of what we believe their experience will be when we're open.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. Any panel, we've got questions, I'm sure you have, haven't you? Councillor Henwood, please, Councillor Henwood.
I don't know if this is working. Yeah, yes, please. Yes, a lot of people consider smoking a public nuisance. And I'm particularly concerned with, given our climate change and our increasing temperature, first of all, even if you have no table and chairs outside, where would a designated smoking area be? And second, well, hypothetically, I can imagine you will have table and chairs. But yes, so if you'd like to address that question, please.
I don't smoke.
Okay.
We tend to find now that we don't need a designated smoking area because far fewer people are smoking. And again, the nature of what we are, which is a family-run food diner, is that people tend not to go out and stand outside our venue and smoke. And so by having a designated smoking area, we could actually cause more harm than good. Smoking is becoming more and more antisocial. I see that there's a bill just going before Parliament that won't pass, requiring tobacco sales to be licensed. I'm prepared to go on record and say that bill will not go through. But I suspect that within 5 years we probably will have legislation about smoking within a certain distance of public buildings. But that's a public opinion and hope that may happen in the future. But we don't we don't expect it to be an issue.
I thought there was one, Mr. Bryant. Isn't there a distance of 2 metres, isn't it, from a building for smoking, if I remember rightly?
I would need to look up the exact legislation rather than run the risk of advising the chair with the wrong information.
I thought there was about a metre difference. I might be wrong, but okay. Carry on, please.
Yeah, another question. This is a new enterprise for you, and it's going to be providing food. How close is the next nearest food venue that would be a cafeteria or restaurant? How near is it, just out of curiosity?
Directly opposite. We all sat there outside. Well, we could almost hear each other speak over the sound of the accordion player playing at the entrance to Queen's Walk. But there's quite a large cafe actually directly opposite us, and they've got outside tables and chairs.
Thank you.
Okay, any more, did you wish to make any more representations?
Craig just mentioned to me that when we have when we have an outside area, we make it non-smoking. So we can look at that. Interestingly, the cafe across the road definitely wasn't non-smoking. We were aware of that while we were meeting, but we would try and keep ours non-smoking.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to make any further representations? Please do, yeah. Thank you.
As I said before, we're here on behalf of the residents, just making their points known. First of all, I know the applicant made a comment with regards to using the police as experts, and I would just like to know if they have the report on them from the police with regards to how many times they've been called to the area. Since the development has opened, we've had a lot of problems with antisocial behaviour, which I know isn't required for them to be given or not given this licence, but it is important that we're all aware of the problems that we have had around there, break-ins, people charging through the corridors, smashing cars, and we've spent a long time making it safe and secure. By encouraging people to come outside there, we're just going to be encouraging them back. With regards to the smoking, we've got doorways that are directly next to where their entrance will be. So if it's raining, stuff like that, they're all going to be congregating in there if they do smoke. I appreciate them saying, you know, we don't believe people are going to be coming here and smoking. We don't believe people are going to be coming here to get drunk. We don't believe people will be leaving after 10 o'clock. But how can you relate a development, a restaurant in East Grinstead to one similar in Watford? They're completely different areas that these two are in. Within East Grinstead, they're not surrounded by Wetherspoons and Slug and Lettuces. You know, if people want to come out for a drink, they might very well go there. So I do think it's important that the timings of this restaurant is considered. The residents have never said that they don't want it there. I appreciate some of them have said, oh, we don't want noise after 6, which is completely, you know, unrealistic. What they're saying is they want their home to be kept safe, the sound to be considered. The sound in that building just literally ricochets from the top to the bottom the whole time. And that has been proved through the building works, which I know is irrelevant, but the sound of it is not irrelevant. And the residents there, as much as these guys want it open, want to use it, want to do this, the residents there also have a right to have their home and use it as have a quiet right to use it. And I think it's important to consider all these points when granting the times and the licence on here.
Okay. Is anything else you wish to add?
The last thing I would like to add is Guy Morris's account, where he said about working with the council on the car park opposite. If you take a look at your plan on page 32, you can see the car park behind New Look. The sound there, you'll see behind at the back near the right-hand side of the page, there's a large grey box. That's a large refrigerator fan for Iceland. That has had to be turned off, and the hours of it and its location have had to be moved, I believe, because the noise was so bad that when these flats were up for sale, they couldn't sell these flats on this side of the development facing onto the street because the noise was so bad. Because the buildings are built up either side, the sound just bounces through the whole thing. So I appreciate them saying, we'll shut the doors at 10 o'clock, but if you're living above there, that noise is going to be unlivable. You won't be able to live there with that level of noise. So I just think if you do grant the licence, which obviously I'm sure everybody in this room would like you to, we would just like you to be considerate of the residents in this block who have bought their home there. It's at a time where moving isn't necessarily going to be easy. A lot of them are first-time buyers, have young families. They don't want to be unhappy in their own home just because somebody wants to open a restaurant at the bottom of where they live. We totally appreciate towns need places, need restaurants, need places to eat, but people also need to be able to use their home with, some level of enjoyment, and we'd just like you to take that into account when you do, if you do grant the licence.
Okay, thank you. Rest assured, we have not predetermined anything.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bryant, you got any questions of the interested parties?
No, Chair.
Applicants, any questions of the interested parties? Councillors, any questions of the interested parties?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, I've got one question in terms of soundproofing. Mr. Bockeye, what's going on in that term, in terms of sound? Okay.
We're putting an acoustic ceiling in.
Okay.
And that's what's caused the noise over the last week or so, because it's had to be drilled into the ceiling. So that will make a massive difference to anybody who lives directly above us. So the noise that they've heard from drilling and the building works downstairs isn't representative of the noise that they may hear from the restaurant. And I should say that in terms of music, it's background music only. It's low-level background music. They shouldn't hear anything from the music that's played.
Okay. Is that your final submission?
I was going to summarise. I think I get the last word with the summary at the end. I don't know whether anybody else wishes to speak.
Is that correct, I believe? Make a summary, yeah, thank you. Summary, yeah? Who's going to do it?
Rose, do you wish to summarise or finish?
I think you would like to.
I think I go last. So
I'm not quite sure on the, do you know the rules on this? I don't think it matters, does it? John, Mr. Bryant, does it?
At the hearing, it will be the applicant who makes the last submission to
Okay.
yourselves. So
Thank you
if
for-
all the parties are happy that they've made their submissions fully to the panel, then the panel can invite the applicant to sum up their application.
Okay, anything you want to sum up at all? Okay, please make a summary, yeah.
thank you. I'm already on the red light. Just a few points from the what I think is still a representation. I'm a little bit confused actually with what Rosebery Estates want from the committee, because I don't think they're opposing the grant of the licence. And certainly the residents that we've spoken to are not opposing the grant of the licence. And no suggestions have been put forward as to conditions that could be imposed or any further restrictions. It would be highly unusual for a restaurant to be forced to close before 11 o'clock at night. We wouldn't expect a licence before 11 o'clock at night, and we've tried very hard to put in some conditions that protect the residents and give you the confidence that we're taking their concerns seriously. We were asked about whether we were aware of the number of antisocial incidents or police reports in the area. Well, the police are your experts, and the guidance is very clear on that you'd expect the police to bring that to your attention if they believe there was a concern. And as Craig said to me, we tend to act as a shiny light, maybe, on the area. If you have closed units, if you have closed shops, you can expect antisocial behaviour. If you have good operators there, closely monitored, with good, well-trained staff, you can expect a reduction in crime and social behaviour. So sometimes it's a matter of being careful what you wish for. You want to breathe life into an area. You want it to be vibrant, but without causing a disturbance to residents. In terms of non-smoking, we're happy to have a condition that any outside area would be designated non-smoking. If that assists, probably helps us actually, because then we can put signage up saying this is no smoking outside, and it makes it a much more pleasant experience for our customers, as well as being. I can completely see from a resident living above, they wouldn't want smoke coming upstairs. So that seems perfectly sensible. There's still the suggestion that people are going to be coming to us to drink. That's not our experience. We don't expect that to happen. The pricing and the whole layout and the whole look and feel of a lounges is, as you see in the booklet, it's a family. You've got toys, you've got games that you can play. People tend not to come to ours and get drunk and cause a nuisance outside. I was going to talk about the acoustic ceiling, but I've already covered that. I don't know about the car park and Guy Morris, but in terms of who said what to whom, I can only go from Guy Morris's representation, where he was clearly told that it was going to be a live music bar open till late at night. I still don't know where that's come from, because it's never formed part of the application. I think we can park that. So the only parties here objecting to the application are not actually objecting to it. They're not objecting to you granting the application. I think they want you to hear what some of the residents wish you to hear, but I don't think it's correct to say that they are representing all of the residents in the block, because quite a few of them, those that have engaged with us, have actually withdrawn, or a number of them have withdrawn their representations, and some of them have just not responded to John's email. So we'd like you to give us the opportunity to open here, to trade in accordance with the revised operating schedule, and we look forward to welcoming you to lounges. I believe that the mayor in Hayward Heath was dancing in the lounges, which is not how our customers are always portrayed, but I think there is a video going round. But I'll leave it at that. But thank you very much for listening to us today.
Thank you very much for your representations, everybody. So what we're going to do now is, if you wouldn't mind leaving the chamber while we sit and consider.
Can I just say one more thing? And sorry, I'm really sorry. If you're minded to change any of the conditions or impose... Okay. If you're minded to change, it's because we've had a very bad experience recently. If you're minded to change any condition or impose other conditions, if you give me the opportunity to readdress you on those conditions before we all leave the building, I'd be really grateful.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right,
Just
so
wait and we'll call you back.
We'll leave. So we'll leave the chamber. So you're welcome to wait. We'll retire. We'll retire to a separate room.
Oh, we retire. Sorry. Forgive.
Be retired. Please make yourselves comfortable.
You'll forgive my confusion, because I do taxi licences as well, and we stay in the rooms. Thank you, Terry. Okay, first of all, thank you all for coming along and for your submissions. It's an interesting discussion. Thank you very much. First, you are correct. It does say the opening times are till midnight, so perhaps you would like. Yeah, we just had a look, so we just, if you wouldn't mind changing that. No. So we understand some of the residents' concerns. We really do. We thought about that. But we do think it is actually a reasonable application. We do. I think they've taken various steps, and it doesn't, to us, look like the sort of venue that would cause problems. It really doesn't. So we are going to approve it based on, we're going to add one condition, and you suggested it yourself. Thank you very much. There'll be no smoking or vaping any time with a sign up to that effect. Do you agree to that?
Outside?
Yeah.
It can't be inside anyway.
Well, it can't be inside anyway. Do you agree to that?
Yes, we do, yeah.
You happy with that, Mr. Brunt?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. So therefore, this application is approved. Thank you very much all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.